I really hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, and click the bell to be notified of more fantastic music content just like this. Hello, welcome to the Need2Know Music Show with me, Ronan McManus, here on Switchbox TV. And today I'm joined by a bona fide legend, an English singer-songwriter whose career has spanned the best part of 50 years. He's probably best known for his time with his band Cockney Rebel, where he, and one of the most played and most covered songs to this day, his smash hit, Make Me Smile. He's back with a new album and that he released last year called Uncovered. And it's an absolute honor to be chatting today to Steve Harley. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Ronan. Nice to be with you. It was released, the Uncovered new album is actually released, it was released at the end of February this year. Still,
oh, was it? I was sorry, I thought it was last year.
To me, it's a new album. We were out on the road trying to promote it. We did 9 dates out of 69 and just lost 60 dates this year. So I'm gonna, when we start playing again, it's the new album.
Yeah, you kind of, it's sort of, yeah, you got interrupted just as it came out.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. So how have you spent the sort of lockdown period? What's that been like for you?
Partly in misery. It's been hard. I've not had a good time. I'm a traveller. You know, I've been doing this for 47 years, travelling. You know, playing concerts. Yeah. 47 years on the road, and so when it happened. After a couple of weeks, someone asked me that question, how you're coping? And all I could say was that without a trolley bag packed, without an itinerary and a tour manager banging on, I didn't know who I was. I lost myself. And it took my son, who is now mid-30s, and he's trained as a lawyer, barrister. So he's very down to earth and realistic and calm and everything. And I told him that, and he said, "Dad, you are still what you've always been. You just, if you put it off, if you put your shows off for 6 months, you'd be all right." And he worked it all out. You know, he placated me. But then I realised, I said, "Yeah, but if I and anyone in my position that was on a world tour, you know, I was on 69 dates." If you take a sabbatical, if you have a 6-month break out of choice, you've always got the next 6 months to look forward to. But this is open-ended. This is a holiday I didn't book. So, but we've managed this at very short notice. People can be enterprising, Ronan. You know, your village pub, it might be locked down and with a miserable landlord going to the wall. In the next village, there's a pub. The minute it happened, the lockdown, they started making takeaway food, enterprising, keeping going. And in the music industry, it's the same. We played outdoors with Squeeze a few weeks ago. The chef, Tom Kerridge, he planned these parties in the park, driving, a couple of thousand people, you know? And then I've done down in Henley on the River Thames. I played down in Wiltshire. Paul McCartney's monitor man, Grubby Callis, terrific guy, and his friend ran a pub in All Cannings near Devizes in Somerset. We played to 500 people, socially distanced, each one buying a table for 6, up to 6 max. I've just done a third one outdoors. It's just, some people are enterprising, and it's really bucked me up. It's like you can play even if it's only in the summer. You can't do outdoors through the winter months. Oh, anyway, I'm rambling. That's what it's done to me.
But this is the reality of the. It's kind of like either we all just do nothing and wait for it to pass, or we start to do something that sort of ticks that box for not just for musicians, but also for there's people missing live music, people missing those gigs, people who live for live music are missing that. So it's great you're finding a way to do that. And
touching on an interesting point, I have discovered one, if only one thing. At the beginning of the lockdown, I was doing lots and lots of Zoom and in-person interviews because of the new album. So, you know, promotion, a lot of it. And then my Facebook went crazy. People got time on their hands, and so it suddenly thousands were joining it that were never there before. And what I've discovered is that very point you just made. And I never knew how much live music means to people. I had no idea. To me, it's a job. I love it. I'm privileged. And God, anyone who sees me play knows that I play every show like it's the last show I'll ever do. I adore the job. But it's a job. We play, then we go to a hotel, and the next day we do it all again to a different crowd. And they go home to their own bed and don't go out again for another show for how long? Who can say? Well, I'm learning that they live for it. Many of my fans, they go to 20 shows a year. Not just mine, although many go to 10 or 20 of mine, but you know, the hardcore fans. But it means so much to them, the experience, the live racket. It's not, and I haven't made one of those in-house, at home, half-hearted podcasts. I can't do that. I've been playing a lot of guitar and I've put some of it online, but it's just me musing, working out new open tunings and things, and they like it. They're all fascinated by all that. I've started to learn how much and what your followers actually need from you. It's pretty interesting.
Right. Yeah, I think there's, but I think that those things are a separate thing to the live music thing. I think one thing people have realized from doing sort of Facebook live gigs, and I've done quite a few of those myself, but you find it's a different thing. It's not ticking that box of the live gig. It's not the same thing. It's a separate thing, and it's fine as long as you treat it like that. But people are still, some people just stopped watching them because it wasn't fulfilling them in that way, and that was the worry, that people would kind of get used to it not being around and kind of having a life without music. But since gigs have started up again, you've seen people have been coming out in force and really loving it. So I mean, how have you felt from the break to coming back?
Well, we couldn't rehearse for the first one. We were a little rusty. It was me and Cockney Rebel, the full band. The other two I've done have been an acoustic trio. But and then talking about enterprising, there's a promoter in the north called John Tyrrell. Terrific.
I know John, yeah.
Oh yeah.
John, yeah.
He's put lots of things on for me. A really good job. And suddenly, out of nowhere, we've put online advertising, ticket sales for 2 nights in November at the Lowther Pavilion in Lytham St Anne's, promoted by him, seated. You know, if I play it with the rock band, it's standing. It's about 800 people, all seated. It's around 500. We're going to play to 170 people each night. You can buy only in 2s or up to 6, but minimum of 2. Socially distanced in the. What's that going to be like? You know, you walk on stage and it's sold out, but it's at 2/3 empty.
Yeah.
Got to get used to it. I mean, I'll deal with it because I'm experienced. I will deal with it. You know, it'll come to me as I walk out. I won't plan anything. I never do. Something will come to me and I'll deal with it. Got to break the ice. Everyone's there feeling uncomfortable. Got to break the ice and play some great music for people. So John Tyrrell, out of nowhere, he says, will you do this? And you know, 170 people, well, my bills don't come down. You know, my costs don't come down. Musicians I use, you know about this. You use top musicians, and I do. You pay them properly. I don't say, can you do it cheap? I'm not going to do that. I'll drop my fee somewhat because I want to please the punter, and I want to perform. So I can do that. I can do it. You know, that can be dropped. But the costs really don't come down. The travel, we're all in the south. You're going to Lancashire, the hotels, everything. That there's a room, there's a PA, and all this. And the ticket isn't going to be cheap. I've said all from the beginning. If that goes ahead with social distancing in theatres, they're going to be paying £100 a ticket. Well, that's not what the case here, but it is £47.50, which is a lot of money. It's a lot.
Yeah.
You've got to buy 2. And, you know, you get one guy that has been, I've had him my head pointed to his comment on Facebook saying, pricing out the fans. Well, what does it mean? It will be sold out, mate.
Yeah.
Twice. So 170 times twice, they're fans too. If you're saying you can't afford the ticket, I'm really sorry. But any cheaper, I'll go all that way, do what I do for 2.5 hours and lose money. I'm sorry, but I'm not a charity. That's the reality. You're either there for this special occasion and it will cost, or you can't afford it. I'm sorry. You know, I expect.
But it's a unique experience though at the same time. So what you're offering is at a time when there just aren't those normal gigs at the moment. That isn't possible. If it was, you'd be doing them. So
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I'd be doing them in the dozens, and it'll be £27.50 or 30 quid a ticket. He's priced it at £47.50, so everyone makes some money. Everyone's working. The theatre people will be working. You know, it's not just the musicians that are out and earning nothing. It's the theatre staff, PA companies, road crew, tour manager types. I mean, it's everyone. Nothing coming in. It's very, very sad. I feel terrible.
It's entire industry people don't realise, you know, and that are out of work from this. Everything you said, crew guys, lighting, sound, rigging, all that. There's an entire army of people that go around on any tour.
And the bus hire company, we live in sleeper buses and splitter buses and things. We live in them. I mean, how much a year do you think my company pays renting that sort of thing? Not a penny this year. Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. It must be 500,000 people affected, I would think.
But it's, I mean, on the plus side, you're saying that these shows are coming through. There is a chance for people to go and see it, and it will cost more. But that's just the nature of the fact that that you're doing things in the right way, and that's the main thing. People are safe whilst going to these gigs, and unfortunately, due to the reduced capacity and everything, that's just the way it has to be. But at least it's something's better than nothing at this stage, I think, for all of us, especially as you said before, we don't know when this is going to end, so we have to adapt.
Well, we were playing outdoors last week in beautiful setting in the Ribblesdale area. Just so beautiful. The River Ribble running in front of the stage, and 500 people at tables and chairs out in the field. It's just so pretty. And I said to my tour manager that day, look, the promoter's offering me these 2 nights at Lytham St Anne's, and we're talking about November 2021. Are you all right for it? And he said, let me look in my diary. He said, actually, I'm not doing anything else.
By contrast, we'd like to talk about the early days a bit, just about when, because this show was mainly conceived for up and coming musicians, give them a platform for people to discover new music. And I'm always interested to talk to people about their beginnings and those early gigs and getting started and what all that was like at that time. So we talk in the early 70s. What was the music scene around like then as you were getting started? What was that like to be part of? Because it must be a massive contrast to what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I was an odd one because I came out of the sort of folk clubs, even though I'm not a folkie. I'm a London boy. There's no folk music as for Londoners, you know.
Yeah.
Hokey cokey, and that's it. I mean, we don't have traditional London music, do we? It's cosmopolitan since time immemorial. You know, the sailors would come in with their shanties and then leave again. But all around Britain, there is pockets of individual itinerant folk music. So I came out, I was playing those clubs just to hone a little bit of to fine tune the songs that I was writing. And I'd written the first 2 Cockney Rebel albums already. I'd written them before we signed to EMI in '72. I'd written the whole of the Human Menagerie and the Psychomoto album. I'd written all those songs. Basically, I then formed a group that was not glam rock. I know that we got sort of shunted into that corner at one point and by some people, but it wasn't that. There was no makeup and wedgie shoes and stuff. We were a little bit theatrical. It was of its time. It was Bowie and Roxy and my old mate Mark Bowen, you know, Slade and stuff. So that was glam rock, and nothing wrong with that. They were trying to kick the jeans and t-shirts into the corner, you know. Woodstock had gone. They wanted to brighten things up a bit. Mop the Hoople, things like that. It was a good music, very good music. So I kind of fell between 2 stools. Cockney Rebel were kind of like the fag end of glam rock and the beginning of whatever. I mean, frankly, we were never really fitted in anywhere, to be honest. I always felt on the periphery of the music industry.
Yeah, I think the sound kind of fits in with maybe what came later. Maybe it influenced what sort of became this new wave and kind of my brother in the sort of pub rock scene that sort of appeared maybe in the late 70s, mid to late 70s. And maybe for me, it fits much more in with that. And I think you can hear the folk influence maybe in more of the storytelling lyrical style of some of the songs. And I think that for me, maybe you were ahead of your time in that respect.
Well, you never know what to say about yourself. You can't look in the mirror and see the truth. You can't. It's other people have to look at you and tell you the truth.
Well, that's how I have assessed it. So, but you mentioned Mark Bowen there, and you mentioned I know that there's his last ever recording was done with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess so. I sing the choruses of Dandy in the Underworld, and the last things he ever played in the studio were on my album, Candidate. He plays on Someone's Coming and sings on the song Someone's Coming. He sings the harmony parts, and he plays guitar on that and a song called America the Brave. He plays electric guitar. He was a good player, self-taught and crackers. Mad as a box of frogs, Mark was. The way he played, the way he wrote, the way he acted, the way he carried himself. A unique character, completely potty. I mean, loved him to death for it. But, you know, he lived on Fantasy Island. He was an amazing guy. You couldn't believe a word he said. It's wonderful to be around. Wonderful.
I wanted to, obviously want to talk about the smash hit "Make Me Smile." So, what were your recollections of that song? Of recording it, writing it. I mean, what your recollections of that song?
Yeah, it's almost like yesterday. I remember it vividly, all of it, because it was November and December '74, and I lived in W1, the West End of London, and only a 10-minute cab ride from Abbey Road. And we'd go into Abbey Road, number 2, the Beatles studio with the staircase, and we'd go in every morning at about 10, and I'd have a new song every day. We'd record all day, right into the night, but we'd never really finish. There were lots of overdubs to do, but we'd put that to one side and next day start a new backing track. And I went in after quite a while into the album, and I used to sit them down in a semicircle around the grand piano and say, hey, okay, let's routine this. And I played Make Me Smile, quite slow, a bit of a dirgy blues. It was really like, you've done it all, broken everything, like that, and staggered. And they were digging it. They were getting off on it. Piano came in, and Cregan started playing some lovely random guitar licks. George Ford picked up his bass and kicked in. It was all lovely, very slow, moody blues, because it's quite a moody lyric. And then Alan Parsons came down the staircase, who was my co-producer and engineer, the great Alan Parsons. And then he said, I like that, Steve. It's got such imagery. And would you like to try it a bit quicker? Stuart Elliott got behind his kit and immediately played that mid-tempo backbeat that is so famous. You've done it all. Lovely rhythm. It's more complicated than it sounds, actually. It's a really good drum part. And it was just great. And then, of course, it took to play it that mid-tempo like that, boppy. It took away from the rather finger-pointing lyric. It made it poppy. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then Alan came up with look, we're in the Beatles studio. Let's get some singers in and do ooh la la la, ooh la la.
Yeah.
Beatles backing vocals. And just a nod to the Fabs.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, we actually did the rhythm, the backing track in total. And we were playing a solo over part of the verse. And then I said, let's have lunch. We took a break, went down to the canteen at Abbey Road. Well, they did. I stayed back. and said to someone, "Look, can you bring me back a sandwich and a pot of tea?" And I worked on and wrote the middle 8, which is actually a middle 12. But yeah, those chords.
Who's counting?
There you go. The chords that the guitar solo plays over are not relevant to the song in any way. They're completely a separate part. So I wrote them, those chords, back down to that, the E minor and A minor shapes, and through the chorus. And we had to record it again. No, not a problem. We put that section in. And I said at the end of the day, I said to Alan, I want to get Phil Kenzie, who was a great session tenor and alto sax player. I want to get Phil Kenzie in and play a saxophone solo over that. And Cregan was there, Jim, the lead guitarist, and you'll never meet a shy and retiring lead guitarist. Never. The ego walks into the room before the guitar case in most cases. And, yeah, that's why I never had one in the first Cockney Rebel. Jim said immediately, "Look, can I have a go at that? I've been thinking about it. Let me have a go at that on acoustic guitar." And he had a nice, he still got it, a D35 Martin from the 60s. Lovely sound guitar. And that's it. We let him do that, and it's 3 different takes that Alan and I then mixed it together from. Jim had to learn the guitar solo when we went on tour. He didn't play that solo. He played 3 separate solos, and Alan and I, when Jim wasn't there, obviously, we were mixing the album at the desk, the mixing desk in Abbey Road, switching between. Now we'll have 4 bars of that one, 3 bars of that one, back to that one. Makes it difficult to play.
So he had to do basically what every guitarist has done, is learn that solo.
He just had to learn it. Yeah. Like everyone who's played it since him on tour, they have to learn it note for note. It's like an audition. You're going to play guitar for my band. I've got to sing that song, and you've got to play it, and no bluffing. There's no bluffing. I won't allow it, because an audience sings it. The fans know that solo note for note. And I think most people who pick up an acoustic guitar and play lead parts learn that solo. It's like an iconic thing, isn't it? So it's just, so he's no different. Stay away. No, stay away.
Yeah, denied.
And when we were mixing it, I can tell you, weeks later, we were nearly finished, and the then managing director of EMI, Bob Mercer, he was staying during a marriage problem. He was staying away from his house in an apartment in a block of. It's a huge Victorian block next to Abbey Road that EMI owned, and he was staying there. And he came into our studio about 10. It was about 10 p.m. and he'd had a drink at dinner. And he came in, a lovely man, and he said, "Is there anything you can play me?" And Alan said to me, "Do you mind if we play Bob Make Me Smile?" which wasn't finished. It was a rough mix. The singers were on, and the guitar was on, so it was pretty well finished, but not mixed properly. And I was all for it. And we played it to him, and he just immediately said, "Number 1." Now, and your brother would know, back then, the 4 or 5 major labels could move mountains. They had a massive sales force. And they could do it. They really could do it. And I said, "You serious?" He said, "You can hold me to that." And sure as eggs is eggs, it came out that next February. And in these days, where you go in is your high point. Where you enter the chart is the best you're going to do, isn't it? Back then, you crept up a bit. It went in at 27, then to 9, and then to 1.
Wow.
Ever since, really.
What was that? Well, I mean, it's still one of the most played, one of the most covered songs. It's still it's a staple of the radio, and everything. Like, did you know when you played that upbeat version, and then did you have an idea that it was going to be a big song, or was it only really when the EMI came in and that's when you realised? But how did you feel about it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and the answer I'll be absolutely truthful, and that without an ounce of self-aggrandizement or arrogance, not an ounce. We all, the group, the musicians and the record company people, and deep down in my heart, I didn't want to say much at the time. I'm a betting man. I'm a fatalist. I'm careful about, when I look into the future. It's let it come as it comes. And but I believe, we thought we had something, but it was very radio friendly. I mean, I didn't deliberately put those BVs on, the backing vocals, and the tacits, the stops. We didn't record with those stops. The ending, we did them for earlier ones, but the fade out was all one long fade out. And Alan Parsons and his tape operator, they had to work for 12 hours to put white leader tape in to make those gaps. Massive job. Today it's 5 minutes, cut and paste.
Yeah, it's just on the computer now, isn't it?
Give me the mouse, Pro Tools, yeah. But I asked him to do it, and it was a day's rent of the studio just to make those stops. So it was full of hooks, radio friendly, and one at Radio 1, one of them was either Johnny Walker or Kid Jensen had it as their record of the week, and that was a major plug. Major help.
Switchbox. I wanted to actually talk about the new album because I've been listening to that and it's some real gems on there. It's called Uncovered. It's mainly covers and a couple of originals on there. How did you sort of choose the songs? How did that come about?
It's interestingly, the Uncovered title is ironic, obviously, but I rather snootily prefer to refer to them as interpretations.
Yeah. Okay.
A cover is a cover. I've heard that there are over 130 other versions of Make Me Smile. I've heard about 30 of them, and some of them are covers, and you wonder why they bothered. I.e., they emulate the original with their own voice. That's all. Others, Duran did it, and Erasure did it, and The Wedding Present. And they made interpretations of it. I really respect them for that. They put their own stamp on it. And the trick, when in the studio, when I went into Rockfield to start this album, I said to the musicians, two of whom I'd never even met before, I knew their work, but we'd never met. And I said, guys, all I want from this is they've got to sound like I wrote them. They've got to be my songs. It's the only reason I'm doing these covers as they are. The reason is, I wish I'd written them. Any songwriter, if you do an interpretation of another person's song, it's because the number one criterion is always going to be, do I wish I'd written that? Yep, you bet your life I do. And they're all great, great songs, even the McCartney song, I've Just Seen a Face. Okay, it's 3 minutes, is it on Help? But it's a 3-minute pop song, yeah. But it's a wonderful narrative if you break it down. McCartney was a narrative writer, paperback writer, Lady Madonna, a brilliant lyricist. And he says it's a song of serendipity. I've just seen her face. I can't forget the time or place that we just met. She's just the girl for me. And he says, had it been another day, I might have looked the other way and I'd have never been aware. But as it is, I'll dream of her tonight. Had it been another day, I might have looked the other way. This is coincidence and serendipity. It's a very sensitive way of saying to the woman, Jane Asher at the time, this is just, it was meant to happen. This is fate that we met. Could have been an hour later, it wouldn't have happened. It happened because it was fate. So they're all great. So I mean, the Crispin Hunt's and Richard Hawley's song, Lost Myself,
beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful.
Wonderful piece of work, and I'm really proud of this album. When you walk in, and also Ronan, I can tell you, it might be to most listeners, if not all, the first album you'll ever have heard with no EQ. There's none on it, nothing, not a bit. And my great engineer Matt Butler, Matt said, "How do you want this to be?" And I said, "Look, it's got to be that I'm in their living room. I'm not a young man. I'm not going to shout. These are brilliant, brilliant lyrics, Matt, and I'm going to sing them like I wrote them, and with all respect. So I'm saying to this great engineer, don't engineer. But of course he had to, well, he was also brilliant at miking them. You've got to know how to mic these things up. But we went in for a couple of weeks at Rockfield, and I'm with Martin Simpson, just one of the world's greatest acoustic guitar players, especially at the clawhammer style, open tunings and bottleneck. Martin's a master, and it was a dream to work with him. I've been dreaming about it for many years. So I'm in there with him, great rhythm section from the jazz world, young jazz players. Barry Wickens from my band is a virtuoso on the violin, viola, mandolin, guitar. So, and we go in with, you can imagine. I go in with two 1970s Martin guitars, fantastic instruments, and a hand-built Zamatis that was made for me in '75. So Martin comes in with two hand-built acoustic guitars. Barry's got a handmade Moon guitar. We're going in with the best instruments money can buy, with the best microphones money can buy, the best Pro Tools money can buy. It's live. I mean, there's hardly any overdubbing on it, and people say it's like you're in the living room with me when you sing these words, and I say, well, that was, thank you, because that was the only aim I had, and that was it. That was number one. I wanted these great musicians. It's beautifully mixed, and you can tell, can't you, how proud I am.
Absolutely, but I mean, and rightly so. I mean, I've been listening to it, but I know I need more listeners to this, because there's so much beautiful music on there, so many great performances on there, and it's an absolute delight to hear you saying that it was kind of all done as natural as possible. It was all kind of just done. I mean, vocally, you can be very proud of that. I think it's beautiful, and the songs are so. I mean, the string arrangements, the quartet arrangements on there, just add so much to that. I mean,
tell me, yeah.
Yes,
that was
and Eddi Reader.
Yeah,
well, string quartet first.
How good does it get? How good? we went to Holland for this an arranger that I always wanted to work with, and my record Sebastian was the #1 in Holland and Belgium and Germany. It was massive. Not a hit in Britain, but massive over there. And it's still played to death in Holland, Belgium. And he wanted to work with the man who wrote Sebastian. How good is that? And I wanted to work with this guy whose work I'd heard. And that brilliant young string quartet, just wonderful. And he moves the songs on so brilliantly and with such sensitivity. And Eddi Reader on a duet. I mean, come on. Eddi. Oh,
she's amazing, isn't she? She's an amazing voice.
Man. I'll tell you a lovely story, Ronan, if I may.
Yeah.
Well, Mrs. Harley and I went to see Eddi and her folk acoustic band at a couple of miles from where I live. I live in East Anglia, in the Stour Valley area. And we went up to the, what's it called, Stanford in Lincolnshire. And they were playing a sort of 250-seat hall. And we got in touch with her office and said we were coming. I bought the tickets. So Steve and his wife are coming to see you, and her female assistant passed it on. You know the way the business works. And I wanted to say hello to her. I'm no ligger, but I wanted to say hello out of respect. This is a great artist. And she wrote back immediately, Eddi's bowled over. Can't believe you bought tickets. She'd have wanted to get in. She can't wait to meet you. I'll bring you backstage after the show. Yeah, I know how it works. It's all fine. And she just jumped all over me. I didn't know what to expect. We're from different worlds. She's a Scottish folk singer, basically. I'm a London boy in a rock band. But do you know the first thing she said? This is so wonderful. She said, the Psychomodo was the first album I ever bought. Oh, go on, tell me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was knocked out. Are you serious? Oh, she said, carried it to school under my arm. Great sleeve, great artwork. And, You know, she says, it's so great to hear this. It's like a mutual society of backslapping. I get that. It's a bit odd, but you have respect for each other.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
And then I said to her, look, I'm about to go into Rockfield. And I'm taking in with me this very unusual traditional song from Newfoundland, the Star of Belle Isle. It's a Newfoundland Victorian folk song, and whenever you hear it, you YouTube it, and there's dozens of versions, but they're always men singing it because men were the singers at the time, the wandering minstrels. And there's a woman's part. It's a two-part. The woman speaks in the song, but of course it's a guy always singing it. And also, I managed to find 2 missing verses. On the end, I've seen 2 verses on my version that you just can't find anywhere. Then I found them. A lot of research, a bit of Cecil Sharp House, and we found them. Archie, might be Watson, a very old man now, Scottish folk singer, and I've got him in a pub singing it, and he sings these 2 rather lost, missing verses that people never bothered with. And I sent them to Eddi Reader and said, will you duet, sing the woman's part for me? And there you are. We went up to Glasgow and put her on. Just magic.
Amazing.
Also for me, seeing how another singer, I mean, I'm not used to it, seeing how they work, you know, with me and my engineer are there and bringing the track up, and she'd heard it in advance, but she hadn't done much. She hadn't done much work. You know, I go in, I've acted, and when I've acted, I go in off book, meaning I've learned the part. I'm a stickler for that. But Eddie came in like, okay, play it to me again. I'm thinking, don't you know it? We sent it to you 3 weeks ago. It's just very chilled, and it was like, it's intriguing to see how other performers work in a studio. You know, it's interesting. She had her way, and I'm pretty cool. I just sort of let her get on with it. You know, let her get on with it. It took a couple of hours, but she's great fun, and she's a thoroughbred musician. So hey, let her get on with it.
Bags broke. But it's an absolutely fantastic album, and I'm looking forward to delving more deeply into it, because just every time I listen, I've had about 2 or 3 listens, and every time I'm hearing something more, and I'm like, oh, it's brilliant there, and nice playing there. There's so many great performances on there. I think it's something you can be very proud of. And so the idea is to try and get to those live dates at some point. Like us all, we're all kind of waiting to sort of see when it's going to happen. But you're doing those social distance ones, but you're looking maybe for next year, maybe to try and finish off the originally planned tour.
Yeah, these 2, November 20 and November 21, Lytham St Anne's. There's those 2. Well, I'm going to tell you, I've got a very big birthday coming up next February, and February the 27th, and it falls on a Saturday. And we've had the Armadillo, you know, in Glasgow.
Yeah.
We've sold tickets until the lockdown. We've sold just nearly 2,000 for my big birthday bash with a string section and a choir, rock band, the acoustic band. It's going to be a big night, and it won't happen.
No. Could you live stream it somehow or something? Could there be a live stream? No, I don't know. It's a shame.
Yeah, it sold nearly 2,000 nearly a year ahead, and just stopped. You know, just dried up. Starts selling 2 a week. Well, you know, they'll all get refunds.
Maybe you could do the big birthday bash for the following year.
Yeah, and call it Steve's Big Birthday Bash +1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of that. People's big birthdays, they'll be celebrating them a year late. So maybe you'll be in good company. There'll be plenty of people. It'll be maybe a thing. People understand.
We have been quite lucky. I've got some really good promoters that put me out there, and 57 shows have all been rescheduled from May onwards, May to December next year. They've all been rescheduled. And it's, you know, it's getting hard to get the dates now. Availability is tight because everyone's looking to reschedule.
Of course, yeah, everyone's doing the same thing, yeah.
And you know, it's probably the same in your life. And So, but mine have all been rescheduled, and people are missing their live music. And you know, we've had about two pairs say they can't make it. They want their money back because they can't get. It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Just fingers crossed, eh?
We normally do a recommendation part of the show where we give people, we ask for a recommendation of an artist that people should check out. It could be someone that's kind of new that you've discovered, or someone that's just been a big influence on your career. So who would you recommend people check out?
I would recommend anyone who loves music should be listening to Eddi Reader's Ravi Burns album, where she sings the Burns songs, you know.
Yes, a brilliant album.
Listen to that. Yeah, it's wonderful. And if you want something a little more obscure and rocky, dig out your Highway 61 Revisited.
Fantastic. That'll do us. Thanks so much, Steve. Thanks for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and it's been great hearing all about the new album, and it's obviously you're really excited about it. It's so fantastic to see that, and to you know, it's a great album, and I recommend everybody to check that out. And I hope everything comes back as we hope it will, and you're back in your life of just constantly touring and gigging and do more gigging. So we all hope you get back to that.
I'll know again who I am.
Yeah, rediscovering, finding yourself again. Yeah.
Send my best wishes to your brother.
I will do. I'll be catching up with him soon, so I'll pass them on. No worries.
Much respect.
All right. Brilliant. Thanks, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us.
Totally my pleasure, Ronan. Thank you.
Take care. Stay well. Cheers now. Bye now.
Bye-bye.